Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first
Autism.
episode.
Yes, welcome to Autism, the show that's always unique, totally interesting, and sometimes mysterious.
Exactly right. And on this show, we will be talking about and sharing all things autism. We have Aimee Hogan, who you just heard, myself, Dick Dawson, and we have Booleanenator.
That's right, Dick. And we'll be looking at autism in all its forms, from little toddlers to adults, to us adults as well, because I believe we're all somewhat on the spectrum here, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll have new topics every week.
That's right. So let's show everyone the sets, shall we? We have, of course, this, which is our main set. We have a classroom set for presentations, videos, and anything else we need. And as you might have seen, we have a part as well for times when things are very lively with the kids and all. Right?
Exactly. I love it. So those are the sets we have. And now let's get on with our first episode. Tonight, we're going to be looking at strategies. How do you use them? How do we use them? And what ones do we use? We've got a great presentation all lined up for you. So I think what we should do is head on over to the classroom where we just might find our teacher, Jeff, hanging out as well. And he might join in and give us a little hand on this as well from time to time here. So why don't we head over to the classroom and we'll get started on the presentation. Oh, I love it. Looking great. Looking great. So, Aimee, do you want to start? Take us through? Oh,
sure.
No, sorry. We're supposed to... Well, we're supposed to bring Jeff in as well. So, Bull, do you want to bring in Jeff's part for us, please? We'll get this right.
We'll get this down. It'll happen.
We will.
It will.
Hi, Dick and Aimee. How are you guys doing today? Thanks for asking me to come on the show. I'd like to take this opportunity to say hello to all of your viewers and kind of introduce myself. My name is Jeff, and I've spent nearly the last 20 years as an educator. The last 8 years, I have been educating children at the primary school level, where I currently teach grade 3 maths, English, and science. Although I am not formally trained in educating and handling autistic children, I do have some insights as to how I deal with certain situations in the classroom and how I apply some of the strategies that Aimee and Dick will be discussing in the show today. Hopefully what I have to offer will be a help to all of us, and I look forward to doing this a lot more in the future. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Dick and Aimee. What's first on the list, guys?
Excellent question indeed. Aimee, would you like to take us through point 1? Let's start this thing.
Sure. Absolutely. The first point is when we're going through and we're having, having our day, we always let the child know what will happen next. Like, say, if Matt just took a shower, so the next thing would be to say, after your shower, go ahead and brush your teeth. And we'd always make it, short, precise comments and things like that. And that seems to work best, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes, he says. so always let them know what's going on, huh? We always do that. So
it's a good one.
So
it's a good one. I like. Sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Okay. I like on the next slide here, there's 2 more points to this number, or to this. And I like,
Yes.
For some children, setting a timer is helpful. Remind them how much time is left. And it's very, very good that they can look over and see the countdown happening. It worked amazing with myself and Felix.
Yes, definitely. And it does with Matthew too. And visual timers are awesome too, which is the next thing. Some kids don't understand the concept of time, or they have, language deficits or anything like that. Visual timers are awesome because the red on it shows you how much time you've got left, and they can see, oh, well, I've only got a tiny bit of red left. I better get ready for the next activity. So, and that always works perfect for us too. He started out with a visual one. He said.
And, even to an adult, and this is for Boole here, even for an adult, having these things predefined so that you don't just get lost on a tangent all day and don't do the other things you need to. This is pretty important stuff, isn't it?
Oh, yes. A schedule is extremely important. If I don't know what to do, I quite literally won't do anything. Like, it's that bad with me. Like, if I don't have my schedule set out for the day, like if I have one show in a day, I'm going to do that one show, and then pretty much everything else kind of like, oh well. So having a schedule is important, and I am ruled by timers. Like, I have, the show countdown timer is a good example. It tells me when to actually hit the go button. So it's immensely important, and it literally tore me apart when my schedule got disrupted, when I had to move, for example.
Oh,
That would be huge.
A lot of sense. Upheaval that's a big thing because we moved a couple times, and it's sometimes it's a delayed reaction with him, but it's hit at it. It's like total upheaval for him, and he just shuts right down, and it takes a while to get back on track after something like that.
Oh yes. Absolutely. Shall we go to the next point then? Boole, do you want to take us through this one?
Yes, please.
Yes. 2, set expectations. Be consistent and follow through. Let the child know what behaviors and activities are expected of them. Be consistent so the child knows what to expect from you. And follow through helps cement lessons learned. Like, if you do something and a child doesn't know what's going on, it's not going to sink in. And using timers at first, if necessary, in some scenarios. Like, if that happens with brushing your teeth. They say, well, you're supposed to brush your teeth for 2 minutes. Most people can sit there and say, I've brushed enough. But I've got a timer in my toothbrush. It's an electric toothbrush that literally it makes a noise that I can hear in my head for when to go to the next part of my mouth.
I live in this world too. It's very much the same thing for me. I go to the point where I count the strokes and stuff while brushing to make sure I get it the same each time. It's crazy. But sorry, I'll let you finish there, the last point.
That was pretty much it. Like, use timers if necessary. But
yes, yeah, right. I'm just looking back. I'm seeing that. Oops, I was in the wrong scroll part there. So, yeah. And Aimee, I'm sure you know this all too well, right?
Oh, I do. And, it's, being consistent like that. He's learned so much from it. I mean, because if you're not, he's just all confused. And, well, same here. I never realized how much we two are alike until he started getting older, and it's like, oh my gracious, I see so much of myself in this child. Looks and everything. But yeah, being consistent helps so much, and then using timers, like, you got to do this for this amount of time, and having him see that as it counts down as he does, like brushing his teeth and stuff like that, because he does really well. It's just some days he doesn't want to go long enough. Other days he just wants to stand there and brush all afternoon, and some days that's okay, but sometimes we have to go. So getting that timer so it's more precise for him is perfect.
Yeah. And Boole, why don't we bring up a comment from Jeff on point 2 here as well? I think it would be a great time.
This same strategy works equally well in various classroom situations. The key is in the consistency. It is also very important to allow the students' behavioral learning to dictate the speed at which you wean them from the discipline and allow them to set natural boundaries in their social interactions.
Great point. Absolutely. It's really nice to have the teacher's point of view as well as we're going through these very much. Shall we continue to point 3?
Yes, please.
All right. I'll take us through this one. Acknowledge your child or students for complying with your requests. And this is very, very, very big. You can just see the pride well up in them when this takes place. So thank them for following through on your instructions. Praise them for doing a great job. And if skilled enough, use as a teachable moment about others' perspectives as well. And that's something that you can really get through when the time is right. If you push it too early, you're probably just going to get confusion and frustration. There's no point. But I find that these are absolutely crucial to compliance, is making sure it's rewarded. What do you think there, Aimee?
I agree. It's vital. It's critical. Like when we go to the store and he does really well helping me out, I'll say, "Oh, gee, Matt, thanks a lot. You did a great job." We'll go high five, won't we?
Thanks, Mama.
You're welcome. And you can see it. His eyes light up, and his little face will too. And it helps us because what we're doing too is we're working towards a reward, right? If we do a good job,
Right.
Right. So he did.
At my middle school.
Yes, and you did that at middle
I'm a
school.
high schooler now.
I know. So, thanking them is just, it's huge. And it reminds them too, oh, hey, I was good. So, that it follows through with the consistency. And so, yeah, and we can teach about, well, hey, since you were so good in the store, it really helped the other shoppers too. So they can go about their day as well. And it goes, oh, okay, yeah, we had a good time, so everybody else did too. So it works out well that way, doesn't it?
Perfect. Boole, did you have any of this when you were growing up, or do you look back now and go, I wish I would have had that? Or how does that play out for yourself as somebody who didn't know they were on the spectrum younger, but found out later?
Well, it was, I wish I had the kind of reward system you guys are talking about, because when I was growing up, you weren't autistic unless you literally couldn't speak. You weren't autistic, like, they didn't know, like, autism was like a switch back then. It wasn't the spectrum they've found it to be now. So back then, if you had a developmental disability that is considered autism today, you learned differently or whatever back then. They put you in the special ed class, but they even treated those people the same. It was different, the same, but it was still very cookie cutter, and there wasn't a whole lot of reward for completing things. And it became very tough. Like when homework started, that's when my school really went downhill, because there wasn't anything like a reward, and I was exhausted from dealing with the kids in school. So I couldn't separate the school work from the social stuff at school. And if more teachers had put the time in to reward me for stuff, then I think I would have been able to separate that from the social aspect of it.
Great point. Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it. I think it's Aimee's turn for point 4, right?
Yes, please. It's and this one says, tell the child specifically what you expect and allow him to earn privileges for complying with your expectations. Be specific when telling the child what is going to be done. For example, going to the store to get groceries. Use a list as necessary. If skilled enough, let the child participate in planning the errands to be done. Let the child know that if they do well, they can earn an award or special privilege, and be consistent with follow through, which is repeated all throughout. We do that, and we make a list up, as you know. Say I sit down with Matt and I say, well, this is what we need to do today, and I make up a list of all of those things, and he helps out with me, and like being specific, like with what we're going to do and exactly why, is always good. What do we do on the 15th? Do you remember? That goes on our list of things for errands. We make a
deposit.
Yes, it's a bank. No. And he knows about planning and everything, and he gets to earn a special award or a treat when he does an excellent job with all
Like
of our
Little Caesar's pepperoni pizza.
Exactly.
I'm with you
where
there,
we're going
buddy.
with that.
I'm with you there. I love my some Little Caesars.
That's right. This one does. So, and always be consistent with that follow through. So, oh, and we've got a super chat, please.
Oh, we got a new person.
Yeah.
Ghost Dog 999 for $5 said, my niece has autism, so I've seen schedule and praise works. Really works.
It does, and it's true. Thank you
Nice.
very
You're
much.
new, so subscribe to me. You're new.
Thanks, Ghost Dog. Yeah, it is absolutely key to things. It really is. And yeah, do subscribe to Matt. I know with myself and Felix, we lay out the day. So we're going to do this and then this, and I expect this behavior here. Here you can be a little bit more open and a little bit more free flowing, but here we've got to do this. And then at the end of the day, if everything works properly, we can have like vanilla milkshake and fresh out of the oven chocolate chip cookies and so on. And it's if you follow through with how you lay it out and you make sure that the expectations are clear and easy, the compliance will fall in line faster than you ever thought possible. It is very, very good.
Oh, it's amazing how
I
that
wonder.
works out.
Yeah, Bull, do you have anything on this one?
Well, I was just going to say, as important as to what we're doing next is why we're actually doing it. Because if you are in a position where you can understand the end game and the person, they're holding it back, or it's a respect issue. Autistic people are still people, and they understand when they're to a point when they're being disrespected or they're not being given the benefit of their intelligence, because they're not stupid. We do understand the end game if it's explained to us. So let us know the why. If people had more consistently told me why we are doing what it is we're doing, I would have been
We got another one, guys.
way more compliant, I think.
Yes.
I think so too.
I totally agree.
I have to agree with that. Yeah.
Ooh, a new person again. Intellectual Iconoclasm. Welcome to the show, Master.
All right. Hey,
Thank you
intellectual
very much.
iconoclasm. Yeah, welcome to the family. Glad to have you. Excellent. Excellent. Should we? I think we should bring Jeff's number 4 point in on this one as well. I think that would be a really, really good idea. It's a good one.
Absolutely.
Yes,
A
please.
cornerstone of good classroom management is to implement some type of point or reward system. Try to set a target for the lesson and use games and other activities to generate a good point base. And then introduce the new activity with achievable expectations for the classwork. And you can add and take away points as you go along. If you set this up as teams, your kids will feed on the competition and often will apply themselves better to the task. Rewards can be anything that your students collectively agree on.
I like that. I like that. It just lays it out perfectly. It's absolutely great stuff. Great stuff. Oh, looks like we're going to need Matthew again.
Oh, Maddie.
Glober Mom for $2 said, these strategies are great for every parent.
Yeah.
I agree very much. Great shout. Great shout, Glover Mom.
Me too. Thank you.
Excellent. Whose turn is it for the next one? I think it's Boole's turn for the next one, isn't it? Or no, is it Amy's? I don't know where we are. We're on number 5, so that would be Boole's turn. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is my turn. But I have a choice, and that's what this is about. Give choices. Giving choices gives them a sense of control over their environment. Some children may need the number of choices limited. They could get overwhelmed with too many choices, and that's really important. And children with language difficulties can be shown the options or pictures of the options instead. They can communicate in other ways. So I know for me, growing up, having a choice and being told the outcome of that choice, which ties into the previous point, is super important. It's super important, knowing what that choice leads to. So that's key too.
Mm-hmm. Good. It's for myself when Felix and I are laying out a day, if it's things that have to be done and there's not a lot of choice involved, well, they just have to be done. But for free times, we always have choices. And I personally structure the choices based around, if he's got 3 different times for choices during the day, I try to lay out things that he can choose that are going to be fun, but maybe slip in something where I can do a little educating at the same time. But it definitely gives him more control and a sense of, empowerment to his own existence. It's really, I think it's great. Very important stuff. We'll turn to Aimee here now.
I agree with that. We do the same thing here. And right now we kind of limit them to like 2 or 3. But a lot of the times, and even sometimes getting dressed during the day. But today, you picked out your stuff yourself, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Out of a whole bunch of choices today. And it worked out perfect because he picked out his own clothes. But for bigger things and activities, yes, I usually, like in the afternoon, if he has some free time, do you want to do scootering, which will help you get some energy out? Or do you want to read a book, which helps you learn and read better? And I do explain to him, the consequences, like if you do scooter, great, you got some energy out, you got some exercise. If you read, great, you learn something new, and it's gonna help you learn the new words better. So it's always good to have give him choices too.
Alien Moon, welcome to the Shill Apprentice.
Yay!
Hey, Ilya, thanks, honey. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I think I really want to get Jeff in again on point 7. So let's run right over to point 7, and I believe that's my turn now, isn't it?
Did you forget?
Yes,
6?
it is, please.
Oh, did we do? Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. I had a feeling. I got too many screens open at once. See, I want to do that, print the show notes. Anyway, okay. So, point 6. Showing a child with language difficulties next activity helps encourage them to move on to the next activity. So, you use visual cues. It's an effective form of communication as it makes your expectations concrete. And that's huge, because if you use a visual representation, like, a picture of sitting on the couch watching a TV, or, a kid having cookies or whatever, if they're unsure of the language, they're going to get the imagery, right? That's why we use, walk signs and whatnot on the streets. And the second bullet point here is, can also be effective even when children are skilled at communication. And this is very big, like even if the child is, decently verbal or even good verbal, like Matthew here is, sometimes they get so busy going on that visual memory is stronger and sticks with them. That's how I find it, very much so. So I'll turn to Aimee now for her responses here.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I'll put both, and then that way he can see, oh, this picture means this is what we're going to do next. The words are also saying it. So sometimes it even helps him start to, when he remembers what he wants to do, it's both words and pictures, which sort of helps, if you know what I mean. But yeah, pictures are huge for both of us, actually. We're both visual learners. So seeing the picture of it, sometimes like, oh, okay, now I get it. Same with activities too. Oh, okay, this is what we need to do next, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll do that too. I'll lay everything out that we need to do for the day. So as I'm going through my list, we got to make a deposit. If I see the deposit slip, oh, yep, we really got to do that deposit slip and get going. So it does help a lot.
And Bull, what's your take on this? Yeah.
Well, growing up, it was always like I didn't have the benefit of people drawing pictures for me. Like people always asked, "You want me to draw you a picture?" If I'd have known that saying yes and them actually doing it might have helped, I probably would have gotten along a lot better with a lot of people. So communication with a developmental, I don't want to call it disorder. What do they call it? Developmentally different person. Yeah. Communication, everybody communicates differently and everybody remembers and learns differently. So visual, engaging all the senses, even like if there was a way that you could say, hey, we're going to have apple pie, and waft the smell of apple pie at me, I would probably be more inclined to get on that apple pie, right? Like go make one, for example. We're going to make an apple pie. If I could smell the way it was smelled at the end, I would be like, heck yeah. So just all senses that you can, because you never know what's the best way for somebody to learn. But by and large, I am a visual person. I learn a lot through reading and watching things being done, followed very closely by tactile.
Yeah, myself as
Yes.
well. Absolutely. And I think bringing in Educator Jeff at this point would be another good stop, because I think his is a good one for this.
This is
Yes,
a common strategy in most classrooms. It is a standard practice in my classroom to actually write out an itemized agenda on the board, showing what will be covered in the lesson. Sometimes I will include timings for each item if there is a lot of material to cover. Then I or a randomly chosen student will check off each item as it is completed.
See, it's absolutely bang on for everywhere, right? Accepted in learning, education, the whole bit. Great stuff. Would that make it Amy's turn for point 7?
Yes, please. If possible, use a schedule to let the child know how his day will go. Children thrive with structure and feel more in control if they know exactly what is going to happen. For children with language difficulties, visual schedules work very well. And for older children or for children with higher skills, having them help with creating that schedule gives them a sense of ownership of their day. And that is so, so true. We do that here too, and we're going to be starting on a new schedule pretty soon because his extended school year starts next week. And yeah, so we're going to have to start a schedule, and Mom's going to have to get into Excel and make you a new schedule, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. He wants to see something. There you go. But yes, and he loves he loves having a schedule, and he's so proud of himself when he gets all of his check marks. And he if I miss initialing it, I even initial it and check and say yes, he did this. And if I miss one, he's, Mama, you forgot this. And he gets a great reward when he finishes it all and does it very well with hardly any behavior issues.
Yes.
We do an excellent job with that. And he also
Nice.
likes to help me with it. So he does know, and he's very proud of himself when he's able to finish that himself.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dick? Does that work for you as well?
It's exactly the same with us. Yeah, it's exactly the same. If Felix is a part of building the schedule and the structure, then the sense of ownership and pride at the end of the day is stronger and more fulfilled. Very much so. We don't use visuals quite as much anymore as we used to, because he very much responds on a verbal level. But I still do things verbally in a somewhat visualizing way to assist and make sure. And so
Yes.
I find it comes together really, really well. It's definitely the ownership, the pride at the end of the day, following through. And I think, again, that goes for all parenting situations, because that sets a person up for later in life when you do have to structure a day and actually fulfill it. And you're not just, doing the bare minimum and, couch surfing all the time. You want to be somebody who tries to strive for a little bit more. Now, if you can. I mean, not everybody's physically able, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And we'll turn to Boole here. Yeah.
Well, if I had been given the ownership of my own schedule, like when I got to schools where you could pick your own classes, I loved that. Like doing a class I wanted, having control of that class and having it be a subject that I wanted to learn, that was like the best thing that ever happened to me with school. It was always those classes I excelled at. It was never the core classes, right? So, visually, like I said, it wasn't really a big visual thing, but having a schedule and having the ability to have a measure of control over that was important, and it still is. Like, I tell people when I can actually do shows now, like I've got some spots reserved that I'm just not going to schedule shows during, because there's going to be a show that I want to do then in the future, and I'm just not going to, I don't want that time slot taken up. So that's my measure of control over my schedule. And it's
Awesome.
really nice to have. It really is.
Excellent.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
it
yes,
is.
absolutely.
It truly is.
And yeah, so point 8, that would be Boole.
Yes. And this one is allow the child to bring a transitional object from one activity to the next. And can help bring familiarity to new strange surroundings and new activities. And it helps them to feel more at ease. You want to limit it to an item that's not too distracting to other people. This is kind of like the fidget spinner versus the security blanket that Linus carried around in the Peanuts. The blanket would be quite distracting because it's a blanket, and you have a 10-year-old carrying a blanket around. It's a little bit more distracting than a 10-year-old carrying a fidget spinner around. Although a fidget spinner can get distracting, there's other things they can bring that don't necessarily have to involve stimulating themselves. I don't really stim anymore as an adult, but I'll occasionally find myself clenching my hands together.
Yep. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Aimee, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, please. We do that all the time. They help. He has these 2 tiny little critters that he brings with us, so we kind of stray from the norm with that one, because he has one for each hand, but they're so small that nobody really knows that he's got them until he picks them up. But he carries 2 little critters around. Can you tell them their names?
The baby Minecraft sheep with the backpack hanger is Baby Big Head.
Uh-huh.
And the one with the pink wool with the animal adventure on it
Uh-huh.
that came from 2019 with the black eyes is Mia,
That's right.
the Tia.
That's right. And he takes those with him everywhere, and they help so much. If he forgets them, I can tell. As far as I go, I don't stim as much anymore either, except for if I'm if it's like an extreme emotional thing, like if I'm really excited about something, what does Mama do sometimes? She takes what?
Takes care.
Takes flight.
Takes flight.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she, sometimes? But it's not as often as I used to, though. I'm doing much better, and sometimes I just, if I have something to hold on to, though, it is good. But now as an adult, like I can hold on to my backpack straps, and I'm fine with that, and I do much better because crowds are a little bit of an issue. But
And these little critters are a year old each.
yeah. So how about you, Dick?
Well, yeah, we have those exact objects as well. My son is very much a bird watcher, and an object that he loves to be able to take with him is his small set of binoculars that we take out, and it works awesome because we live in this great little picturesque valley place, and there's always birds and wildlife. We have deer that hang out in our backyard and stuff, so it's absolutely appropriate to have them all the time, and it works out great because he's always got something that's truly his that's there. It works great.
Excellent.
I
Awesome.
really find that, yeah, it's that grounding thing. You go from one environment to another, and transitions can be difficult on people on the spectrum, especially the deeper they are, deeper in quotation marks, obviously, on the spectrum. And
Right.
so, if they're a little overwhelmed in the situation and there's too much stimuli coming in and whatnot, just to be able to focus on that thing that's yours is just, it's an emotional safety net. It's fantastic. I love it. I think it's one of
Absolutely.
it really helps, doesn't it?
Oh, amazing. It really does. And he can focus on, like Matt, he can focus on his two critters here, and it, he has those things he can focus on, and he does so much better.
I carry them when I'm on the bus.
Yep, and he carries them on the bus to school because that's a whole bunch of transitions. So he holds them
Nice.
while from yes, thank you. From when we go, while we're waiting for the bus, then once he's on and then transitioning into the school, he holds on to those, and those help so much. It helps a lot with behaviors.
I get them out of the backpack
Mhm.
when it's time to go.
Yep, you do too.
There you
take them
go.
home with you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Well, shall we go? Where are we here? Next point. Point 9. Okay, I got it right this time. um, distract and redirect problematic behavior instead of saying two of the worst words you can possibly use when trying to de-escalate: stop or no. So let's go through the bullet points. Tell the child directly what you would like to see them do instead, i.e., please walk, you need to stay safe. In other words, don't say no running. For children with language deficits, visual cues can really help them understand and make it way, way easier for them to follow along. And feel free to use some humor. It's really helpful for both the child and the adult in the situation. And that, to me, is huge. Don't take things overly serious. You can always have fun and still be learning. And for myself and Felix, that is massive. Is if I want to get him to calm down a bit because he's, a little too jovial and dancing around or skipping and whatnot, I can instantly turn it into, but we have to keep ourselves all nice and calm because the one who walks the slowest and the stillest wins this game, and boom, you instantly get it over, right? So, that's how we play those ones up. I'll pass it to Aimee for her thoughts on this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, stop and no are like, don't ever say those because oh gosh, it can actually make the situation worse. And if he's starting to feel escalated because of something that's going on, like sensory or anything like that, hearing those two words makes it far worse. If he's so yeah, saying, well, hey, come here, come check this out, distracting is wonderful, or let's try something else, and here, let's use our strategies if he's really elevated over something. Seeing what he needs for help if it's something that's frustrating him, and definitely using humor. We that is humongous for us. If we can make it funny, it works out best, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's good to be silly, right?
we agree. We're the babies.
That's right. See, we use silly voices. We play act and showing what we want done, and they talk to us, don't they? And using that humor is just, and I even use it in his social stories too, which I didn't see put in here, but social stories are also huge, and I can make them pretty humorous sometimes. So doing that is huge. It really makes an impact on him.
Mm-hmm. And what's your take on all this there, Boole? This is a good one.
It is, especially being an adult on the spectrum, not having the benefit of my parents knowing this. My mom had a phrase she was really fond of. We'd ask her why, and she would say, "Because I'm your mother." That has got to be the most vapid, vacuous statement I've ever heard. That is not why we do anything. We don't do anything because you're a certain person. There's a reason things need to be done. Like this says, please walk, you need to stay safe. That's why we don't run when crossing the street. And this was explained to me, which is why I don't run across the street. Because if you run, you could trip, and then a car might hit you. Whereas if you're walking, you can at least respond to the car and get out of the way, etc., etc. It was spelled out, and that's why we don't run across the street. Even though you might feel anxious about crossing the street, it's never a good idea to run because it's not safe.
Right.
We're not walking because you're my mother. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, there's a classic old thing from the late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around there, from the BBC London, and they used to have these little safety things that would come on, and one of them was "Don't run," and the guy runs around a corner and literally runs into two people carrying a big sheet of glass. But it's true. You know?
It is, and even signs on the street, like there's a scene from Rain Man, which I have to admit, at the time that movie came out, it shed a lot of light on the autism spectrum and the autism crowd in general. But his response to the sign of "walk, don't walk," like it's walk, so he walks, then he stops in the middle of the street, because no one ever said walk until you're across the street, and that once you start walking, ignore the sign because you've committed, right? And it really hits home. It really does. There's a reason. It has a
Yeah,
it's such a simple thing. And you read these signs, and it says, now there's a sign up in front of these crosswalks. It says, do not walk if it's flashing. Do not walk. Finish crossing if started. Like, you need to let people know, apparently, that that's a thing.
Yeah, well, you definitely have to let the person who needs "this coffee is hot" on the cup of hot coffee that you just ordered. So those people need help too.
They do, and I'm not saying I'm among those people, or all people who are autistic are among those people. But it helps for people who don't make the connection between situational awareness and safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Aimee, do you want to take us to point 10 then?
Sure. It says, if the child seems overstimulated from sensory input, such as in a large crowd, bring him to a quieter place to de-stress. And that huge thing here. Be mindful of situations where your child might feel overwhelmed before you take him there, like to a fireworks show, a crowded festival, or anything like that. This is huge too. For the longest time, we just didn't go because I didn't feel like it was fair to him to make him get overwhelmed like that. That's how fun is that for him? It's not. I mean, so, and it would make them dread these situations. So the best thing to do is to, ease him into some things. We make it fun. Like on the 4th of July is coming up. That's in a couple days. And a lot of the times people around here will set off the fireworks and they're scarier when you're at home and all of a sudden your environment's changing and he starts to get really overstimulated. But if he knows what's coming and we go out and look for them and we can chase them around, and go down to the, like the harbor and see the boats shooting them off, that's really cool. We can do that. But if it gets to be too much, out we go. We go right home into the car, which is a familiar, safe place, and we have his critters.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just the car is nice and quiet. We can go in there. He's here at home. He can go in his room where it's really familiar. He can, and we do that. And I don't ever worry about him, that happening and being upset because we didn't get to do that. No, we don't. We just don't do it, and we're happy with it. If it's overwhelming him, we take him out, and because I want him to have fun too. Life isn't about being stressed all the time. So
no, exactly. Right. And I know myself with Felix, if we go to a situation that I think might develop into an overwhelming situation, I really watch for the little cues, the stimming, the, pulling back into his cloud more or his bubble more and more and, pulling in tight and whatnot. And as I see it building, I will make sure we get out of the situation as it builds. And then, he gets way more of a comforted feeling, like you're in tune with his situation as well. And then you can all, go and do something else that's just as darn fun anyway. It's not worth it at all.
It's not. And I agree. And it makes him feel like he's, we're a team when we're doing this. And if I see that he's getting escalated, out we go, and he knows that I've got his back, so which is hugely important.
Yeah. How was this when you were young, Bull? How was this kind of thing for yourself?
Again, hindsight is 20/20 here, because when I was growing up, I'll give you 2 examples from my life. The first one, my dad was always late buying Christmas presents. I think you can see where this is going. Going to a mall Christmas Eve as a child with autism. Just a bad idea.
Ouch.
I was practically shaking by the time we left the mall that year. And I didn't know where to direct that energy. By the time I almost ran to the car to get away from the noise and the people, so that was very overwhelming. Wind used to bother me a lot as a child. Like if there was a lot of wind and it would get in my ears, couldn't handle that. And one time, there's a national monument called the Great Sands, or the Great Sand Dunes rather, in Colorado. And it's like it sounds. It's a bunch of sand dunes. Well, what happens on sand dunes? You get high winds and it blows sand around. I got lost on that one time as a child. Like, I got left out there and it was kicking up a sandstorm, and I was bawling my eyes out by the time I got down. It wasn't that I just couldn't see and I hunkered down and waited till it passed, like even your average child would. I was freaking out when this happened. By the time anybody found me, and luckily it was somebody who knew what camp spot I was in with my parents. They were close by, so they took me to see them.
Wow.
So
that's such a stressful, scary thing. Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, that's intense. And I would really like to get educator Jeff's point on this one as well, because from the point of view of a teacher, this is something that could, I would like to hear as well.
My classrooms usually have a spot that I designate as the me space. If space is limited, set it up outside and have a monitor sit quietly with them.
That's a really good point.
There you go. And being alone
Absolutely.
doesn't help either. Like, that's a good point. Like, you want something familiar with you. You want a familiar person that doesn't pressure you to do anything. It's just there. If you need to talk to them, they'll talk with you. If you need them to be quiet, they'll be quiet.
Yeah, I agree. Like going from being stressed in an overstimulated environment to just being dumped to your own head and your own thoughts is not what you need. You need a little bit more support than that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's what they do at our school, and that's what they do, what I do here too. Even if it's just sitting there, just being his support, and just my presence there sometimes will help him.
Yeah.
Same as with me too, because I can still get overstimulated. Going to the grocery store, a busy place. We have a mall in Portland that's humongous. It's the main mall. We haven't gone because that is like sensory overload central for both of us. And I can't expect a young kid who has sensory issues to go there either. So we don't. And sometimes we'll run a few errands, and then that's enough for the both of us. So,
Yep.
and then we go to the car and we both just sit there sometimes just quietly going, oh my gosh, what was that?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
it still happens. Yeah. And crowds are the worst. Stick me in a crowd, you can forget it. That is just way too much. Isn't it? Same with him too.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Where are we here? 10. So 11. That would make it Boole's turn.
Yes. And this is the keep it simple, stupid argument. Make directions clear, short, and concrete, people. Don't give me a list of 500 directions when 5 will do. Tell the child the behavior you would like to see. That's the end game, right? We want you to behave this way. And for children with language benefits or deficits, benefits. Okay, sorry. Show them a picture of the expected behavior. Yeah, give them something to work with.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. The last thing you ever want to do in a situation like that is make it convoluted and drawn out. It's very clear. Can you run upstairs to your room and bring down your empty water cup? Not, and when you're there, blah, blah, and this. Just make it easy, right? Clear, simple. Right, Aimee? Right?
Absolutely. Don't make it flowery. It doesn't need to be. You're not writing a novel. You're just telling your kid, like after the shower, when he gets out of the shower, something. Yep. Okay, Matt, go get dressed, please.
Yeah.
And then you take it, and if it is something that requires more directions than like sometimes even just 3 or 4, do it a step at a time. Like, start out with one thing, then you go to the next, and then when he's done with that, okay, yep, now put your pants on. Yep, okay, you're done with that, put your shirt on. And
Yes.
when he was younger, yes, before he was speaking better than he is now, we just showed him a picture. He, held it up and say, here you go, Matt, this is what Mama wants you to do. And, it's showing the kid putting a shirt on, because we had the PEC system at home, which is it's a picture system where you have everything that could possibly be done in pictures. And we just pick the ones, here you go. This is what I want from you, put your shirt on. And I tell him, you got to put your shirt on and hold it up to him. And and you could see the recognition on his face. He'd put his shirt on, So yeah, definitely keep it clear, short, and to the point, and that seems to work best.
Yes.
He's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And I think our last point, point 12, will be a great one to wrap on. And we'll get Educator Jeff in for his last point. And we got a great wrap for the show. So I'll do point 12 here. Take advantage of teachable moments. And this is something you have to be a little bit conscious of during the day, but there's a lot of them. Try to catch the ones you can. So, for example, if the child snatches a toy from another child, teach him how to use his words to ask for the toy, if he has the language capabilities to do so, rather than reprimand for snatching the toy. And that's huge, because reprimanding somebody on the spectrum is not going to produce a desired result, because all you're saying is that doesn't count and you can't do that. And then they're left saying, well, how do I get that then? Like, how do I achieve my goal? So you got to give them the tools. That's how I see it. Definitely. Aimee, your take there?
Absolutely. And that also goes back to the point of the no and the stop. Those don't work.
Yes.
So, it's like if he does snatch a toy, oh, let's not do that, because, if you say that's, it's not nice to just rip it out of the child's hand, there's a way to do that. And what you can say is, why don't we ask for it? And then I'll say, well, this is how you do it. If you just say, may I please have it? And I keep trying, and if I have to, I'll just, keep repeating that to him. But yeah, and you can teach him, and if when he does snatch that toy away, you could say, well, that hurts the other kid's feelings. If he's skilled enough to know that how it can affect others.
A great moment to teach a little empathy there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bull, your take?
Well, this goes a lot, like teachable moments, that goes into a lot, almost with siblings too. Like if you see a sibling with something and you didn't bother to address that with the autistic sibling, it happened a lot with me and my sister, mostly because she's female and I'm male. That's a huge part of it. She's going to get a lot of things that I don't get, and I'm going to get a lot of things that she doesn't get. But if there's something that's common to all children, music is one of those huge things. So she got to learn the violin, I got to learn the piano. That's a good example. Not only keep the learning teachable moments in your, as a parent in your head, like, okay, this is something that you need to learn and how to address that, but also keep it fair with the social life. Because that's like, there's nothing worse than being jealous. There's nothing worse than being jealous, especially when there's a reason for the difference. Like my parents bought my sister a stereo, and I got a cassette recorder the same year. Well, the cassette recorder, turns out, was for my computer, which I got a year later. And my sister's stereo was because she was into a lot more music than I was at the time. So they didn't feel like I was ready for a stereo. I eventually got a stereo, but my sister's 3 years older than me. So that kind of needed explanation, and they didn't really give me a whole lot of that growing up. They weren't playing favorites with that. It just, it happens.
Right.
Well said, man. And
Absolutely.
I think Educator Jeff's last point on this would be a perfect moment, and then we can do our close.
I am a firm believer that teachers do not just educate, they inspire. Take every opportunity to do so.
And isn't that just the entire job of being an educator of our youth in one sentence right there? I love it.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Yeah, I love it. So how about we flip ourselves over to that main set of ours, and we'll say our wrap-ups, and we'll call this show the first pilot episode of Autism in the bank. I personally am over the moon with how it went. I'm so happy. This team, you guys are amazing. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm over the moon. Aimee, it's your turn. I'm just being a moron.
Oh, No, it's okay. I'm just so excited. Yeah, and I had to use some strategies today too. My breathing too, because I got nervous today. But I'm just so excited. This has been a long time coming, and oh, I'm just so excited that we were able to do this and be able to tell you how we deal with certain things. This has just been so great, and I thank everyone for coming. Thank you so much.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And somebody who truly got to shine and show what a true creator they actually are when they step up. Booleanenator, what do you think, buddy? I think we nailed it, man.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Dick. I think that it's been well received. I'm seeing lots of praise in the chat, which thank you all for your praise, and we'll keep it up. We'll keep up the good work. Absolutely, and that goes for you and Steaming Cup of Reason on the set stick. That this is awesome work. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff, for your work and your educator benefits or educator perspective on this, because for me this is like being able to look back on what society has learned about this issue, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually learning about myself at the same time I'm watching it, because there's a lot of stuff in here that just seems painfully obvious to me, but then there's other stuff that's like, wow, it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, because if I had that growing up, if people knew about that growing up, I wouldn't have had such a hard time of it. And I'm not, there's no one to blame for that. We're all learning about this going forward. So it's a learning process, and it continues.
Exactly. Well said. And Aimee, is Matthew there to give us a little goodbye for the end of the night?
Sure.
Goodbye!
And there he is. And I do want to say thank you. And I do want to say thank you to you, Dick, and to you, Boole, for this, because without you two, this show wouldn't have been possible. I can't thank you enough. So thank you.
What a team. I think we're done for the night, ladies and gentlemen. That's Autism. Always unique, totally interesting, sometimes mysterious. Weekly on the EiE Network. We're out of here. Let's say goodnight, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night!
Thank you.
And I'll see you. Bye-bye!